Something that I hear a lot in my coaching calls is that a person has submitted 15 applications. What sort of response would a person expect after 15 applications? That's what we'll talk about today. Welcome to How to Switch to a Tech Career in Your 30s and 40s. It's the podcast where we love to get excited and down to brass tacks, talking about the real things that help you move the needle when you switch from any other career into a high-tech or IT career. And this is where we're going to discuss the real hints, tips, tricks, and the methods and the protocol that help you switch into a real tech career. So welcome. "15 applications, and what sort of responses should you expect?" Really, I had a spurt in my life where I had 130 or so coaching calls within maybe 30 days. And I don't remember the exact number, but it was between 115 and 140. I do, and I kept notes on every one. Some were cancellations, but I would take free coaching calls, wouldn't charge a dime for these. And I was able to assess the marketplace for people trying to switch into a tech career. It was very interesting. One of the common complaints or stopping points or brick walls that people were running into were was that people would not get responses after putting in job applications. I would hear people say, of course, that they hadn't put in any job applications yet, and so they felt stuck. I would also hear people say they've put in 5 to 10 job applications and got no response. And then I also hear people say they've put in maybe 15 job applications with no response. And they felt like they were stuck. They didn't know what to do next. Let me just tell you what it's really like here in the tech world, applying to jobs now as a senior developer, a senior engineer. My response rate tends to be I get a response maybe 1 in every 15 applications. And this is as a senior engineer. So my marketplace is a little bit different than the one you will probably be switching into. But when I hear people who don't have tech experience say that they don't hear back within 15 applications and they're stuck in a wall, stuck at a brick wall, I understand the feeling. But what I do make clear to people, and I did on all of those calls, was that you're really not stuck. You just have to keep applying. And unfortunately, there's a lot more to it than just keep applying. You know, what does your resume look like? What job are you applying to? Let's compare that to your resume. What experience do you have? How are you demonstrating that in your resume? By no response, do you mean you're getting ghosted, or does it mean you've been rejected? When I say no response, maybe I have one response within 15 applications. That response is not positive. That response is, "Thank you for your application. We will continue looking at other applicants." Or, "Thank you for your application. We have decided to not move forward with you." And of course, it may include, "Let's get a screening call." So very interesting. The expectation of a new person in tech is that it's like other jobs, like applying to work at a retail joint, where if you don't hear back, it's weird. But in tech, there is an overload of people looking for jobs in tech, and the competition is very fierce. So there needs to be a reset of expectations in your mind to how you will hear back, how often you will hear back from the companies to which you apply. So if there's just one takeaway from this episode, it is that you need to level set your expectations and really bring them down, because the truth is you will have a very tough time getting into a tech career. And if you don't believe me, then go try and you will find out that it is very difficult. I hate to toot my own horn here, but this is the reason that this podcast exists. It's because it is very difficult to get into a tech career from another career. Most people give up. And so I created the podcast, and of course, the podcast is related to my accelerator program, where I'm a strategic advisor. And this is all created because it is so difficult, and people do end up needing help and paying for help. And then they will have success to different degrees. Definitely making progress, that's for sure. So, 1 out of 15 is what I would get, and I've been doing this for years. Maybe it's 1 out of 20. I do have evidence from some KPIs I took earlier this year when I was applying to positions. My day job as an iOS developer was under scrutiny and because the company was going out of business. And so I was really forced to look out for my family and apply to more jobs. And I have the KPI, the metrics. If you want to see those, you can email me at info@techlead.com, TEKLEED.com. And in those metrics, you will see that I'm not just making up numbers for my own results, but they are real numbers. Let me encourage you to do something else. Sometimes, maybe you're like me, when we start to do something and get overwhelmed by it, we judge our movement and our results on feelings. Usually it's the latest feeling that we've had. So let's say that you go to a casino and you lose $20 and then you win $20. You could just walk out and know that you've beaten the odds by breaking even. But most people don't do that. They lose the money and they feel discouraged, but they know there's a possibility they could get it back. Or they think there is. There is not a guaranteed possibility. And we know that casinos make money. So we know that most people lose. And everyone on the average walks away with less money than they walked in with. But when you then win a little bit of money, that's part of the game. You feel like you can win more, but the truth is that there's no guarantee you will win more. And so it is with switching into a tech career. It's so difficult and the odds are stacked against you. It's not a game. It could be a game, but because the odds are stacked against us, we need a higher level of motivation to keep pushing forward than our feelings. And that is because the feelings are almost always negative. Unless we base the feelings themselves on something that is more structured and less subjective. So we're going for objectivity here. So just like I kept track of my results from the jobs I applied to, I kept track of who I applied to, how I applied, like what website I applied on, exactly the file name of my resume, because I doctor up my resume every time I apply, unless it's such a very small edit that I need to make. I'll just say I use the same resume, but sometimes I'll even keep track of a 2-line edit and save it in a new file, and I'll keep track of the file name. I'll keep track of the date, of course, and time. Cover letters are tracked and saved in their own folders. Applying to jobs is a process, and it is a job in itself. And so I've tracked the metrics, and I would encourage you to do the same. The end result then is even without using a spreadsheet or just using a list. But the end result will be you will have more motivation to keep going. So back to my casino example, which is interesting because I think I've been to a casino 3 times. And if you walk out with a win, it's something you're going to tell everyone. It's something that keeps you going, and you feel like you won at the casino, even if you walked out even. Or if you, let's say you put in $50 into some game at the casino and you walk out with 40. If you ended on a win, it feels like a win. But the metrics tell you still lost money. And then you can justify it. There's a little bit of cognitive dissonance going on when we justify a loss because it was fun. Well, the same goes with switching into a tech career. Often, and it usually happens with the negative feelings, if you apply to, let's say, 10 jobs and you don't get a response from any of them, you may go tell people, even online, in family and Reddit or whatever, you may tell people that you've applied to 20 jobs when it was really only 10. Because the negative compounding feelings are that you're still not getting a response. It's almost such a letdown that the numbers start to melt and start to lose their meaning. And we start to lie to ourselves about our results and our input and output. So this is another reason we keep track of KPI. It's a way for you to really base your feelings on fact. If you didn't apply to a job today, but you still feel like you're not making progress, well, go look at your KPI. There are 0 jobs that you filled out, that you applied to. And you can feel bad about it, but the truth is you shouldn't expect to get a response from someone today or tomorrow because you didn't fill out a job application today. So then you can say, well, I didn't fill out a job application. How can I improve my performance? I can fill out a job application tomorrow. I could do 2 tomorrow. And you'll feel good about that. And the reason you feel good about that is because you know you're doing the only thing possible in your own mind to make progress, and that is filling out job applications. All right, so I won't leave you with that, but I will leave you with this. If you continuously fill out job applications and don't modify your resume or the way you're filling out job applications, if you just blindly keep pushing forward, there is a point where you will start to have diminishing returns. And that is because you need to listen to the data a little bit more. If you fill out 30 job applications and you never hear back from anyone, not even a rejection or thank you, but we're moving on, then the truth is it's possible you're not doing something right with your job application. And you should be modifying it. So I'll leave you with that. Don't blindly keep pushing forward. Seek help. Look for advice. But realize this is going to be a very tough thing to do unless you have data and metrics to back up and track what you've been doing. You can't switch into a tech career in your 30s and 40s with your whole life going on by just going by emotion, because the emotion will always either be aimless hope or unbackable depression and feeling down about it. So we need to avoid despair by using metrics, and we need to avoid faking ourselves out by acting like we're all that by using metrics. Hey, what kind of a developer am I if I'm getting no response from anybody after 50 applications? What kind of a cybersecurity junior engineer, or whatever we want to call it? What kind of a scrum master? What kind of a quality engineer am I if I'm applying to 50 places and I'm not getting any responses? Is it their fault or mine? And that's where we need to go back to our metrics and say, look, I've been doing something, but maybe something needs to change. I encourage you to look up also something called scientific advertising. And it's a concept that's been around for about 100 years. John Caples was one of the trailblazers for this. But the concept behind this may apply to your job seeking, because to be scientific about something is to try something, keep a constant, and then have a trial. So we call this maybe A/B testing. And then tracking the results, and then modifying things just a little bit and tracking those results. So that may be another help for you. It is very difficult. I hope this has been a little helpful for you. If you're keeping track of what you do to switch into a tech career, you can keep track that you listen to this episode, and it is something you can consistently do to help yourself. If for no other reason, to get a little bit of encouragement or get some wisdom from someone who's been through this process before and walked in your shoes a little bit. So when I was switching into a tech career, I was a little bit unconscious about what I was trying to do, and it kind of stumbled into it through building websites, and I've given this story often on this podcast. But I wish I had some of the tools that we have available today. But then again, sometimes people mistake the tools for actual progress and getting things done. Take action, keep track of the actions, and base your emotion on the actions you've taken, not on feelings. Don't base your feelings on feelings, or else you will turn into a ball of despair and get nowhere, or you will turn into someone who always hoping and never getting anything done. Thank you for listening today. How to Switch to a Tech Career in Your 30s and 40s is the podcast that tries to help you switch into a tech career, no matter what your background is, give you some support and some encouragement along the way. Now, if you're stuck and you need some help, give me an email at info@techlead.com, info@tekleed.com, all spelled wrong. And if you're looking for a Facebook group to get involved in or anything else, you can look at the show notes and we got some info down there. Until next time, my name is Brooks Haynes and I've been your host today, and I thank you for listening. From the shores of the Vermilion River in southeastern Minnesota, have a good day.